You mentioned the word haunting. Or hauntings. Are you haunted, John, by Aberdeen's loss in the Viaplay Cup final to Rangers on Sunday?
I think haunted's maybe a wee bit strong. I'm not happy. I think it was suboptimal.
Not an ideal Sunday.
Yeah,
not my favourite Sunday.
No, a very damp Sunday as well. Very damp Sunday, but no, not ideal. I think generally speaking, when you're a fan of a team outside of the Old Firm, you do kind of go into these games against the Old Firm at Hampden in semis or finals, and you kind of have to think about it that if we win this today, this will be a day I remember forever.
Yes.
If they win it today, it's another day for everyone, and we can all just get on with our miserable lives.
I really noticed that. I was in the Corrie Inn in Edinburgh, and there was like Rangers fans in there, and they obviously celebrated at the end, and then they were all just back drinking their pints like nothing had happened after it. I really didn't notice it. I'm like, if that was Hibs, I'd be losing my fucking mind.
Yeah,
cuddling people for like days on end, phoning my work, not happening this week. But just the sheer difference. Don't get me wrong, in the stands and in the ground, the players look really, really buzzed, and that's because it has been a length of time. But I suppose it's just an older crowd in the Corrie, so they've seen it all before.
Yeah, I think it'd be last days of Rome stuff if a non-Old Firm team wins that game. But I think you kind of have to go in with that mindset, and then you can't be too despondent. Now, maybe that's the loser mentality that means we never win these games, but that's
I think it's the vast difference in budgets that's the reason that you yourselves, Aberdeen and Hearts and Hibs, don't normally win these matches.
And the incessant times that you've been and not won. Also has a huge impact on how enthusiastic you are when you're on the way. They have 10 pints though, great. Or as Tom Watts said, a man spent £900 on a round of Tequila Rose.
He bought everybody in the bar, a guy from whatever bar Tom Watt was in, he bought everybody in the bar a shot of Tequila Rose and it cost him £900.
Wow. I mean, firstly, I'm disappointed I wasn't in that bar. I mean, it's not my favourite drink, but if it's free, that's fine.
Just get one shot.
Yeah. I think there was a lot of...
Cheers, lads.
Yeah, exactly. See you later. Tom, hi. I think there was a lot of people in a very... So when I got the train back through... This is very interesting, but when I got the train back through to Edinburgh after the game, I think it must have been the last train at that point back to Aberdeen got cancelled straight away. So the train to Edinburgh was absolutely rammed with Dons fans, and the morale level was low. I think at that stage. Yeah, the guy. I got chatting to one of the guys there, and he some boy, and he said that because of the disruption on the way down, he ended up splitting a taxi from Dundee with his mate.
Wow.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, for the cost of £170.
£170?
You just can't fucking go anywhere in this country.
Pretty much. Can't go anywhere. So I had a bad day, you had a worse day.
You can't go anywhere if it gets too hot, if it's too cold, if it's too snowy, if it's too rainy, if it's too windy. Can't do anything.
I don't want to get onto this because obviously it drives me absolutely bananas.
Is it obvious I'm trying not to talk about the football?
I was going to actually, I'll go to Tony first then. You can maybe think of something that's not too bitter to say about the game.
Sure.
Tony, what did you make of the final?
I kind of wanted to mention a bit. I thought Rangers played quite conservatively, and I think obviously I was in a pub watching it, so obviously I don't have the same visual tactically as I normally would. Of course, not at all. I thought they played quite conservatively, and I think that might have been quite deliberate. I think they were worried. I think Clement had noticed what Aberdeen have done to them at Ibrox, but I'm sure he watched that game back before he was doing that, even though he wasn't the manager, to get an idea of how Aberdeen would line up. And obviously what they done at Pittodrie, especially the way Aberdeen started in that game, they really, really looked like they could hurt Rangers quite easily. And we spoke about that at the time. I was quite disappointed at how quickly they done that, got the goal and totally sat in. So I think he paid Aberdeen a bit of credit, and I think that says a lot about Clement. It shows how quickly he learns. It was on that during the week, what he done with Sterling and who started in front of him, Cifuentes. Really impressive. It really, really worked. And obviously Sterling ended up getting man of the match in this game. So I really think he's the one who comes out of the smell of roses, because I don't think anyone played particularly well on the day. I don't think there was real standout players. I think there was a lot of disappointing performances. I think, don't get me wrong, like certain players like Cantwell and Sterling, they kept on plugging away, and what you see what you need in a final, and it gets them over the line. I'm not criticising them, but there's no real guys that are like, wow, he was magnificent today. So I think the guy who comes out of this best is really, really Clement.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt that they were very disciplined. I think that would be the word I would use to describe it, because the whole Aberdeen game plan at the moment is to get the ball and get it forward quickly, and try and catch teams out that way, and they weren't to be caught out. And now I think that's also down to players who, when we had those kind of moments of breaking forward, picking the wrong pass, or the ball breaking down or whatever. But I think a lot of it was down to the kind of respect that Rangers had shown us in that sense as well. Yeah, compared to the league game is a kind of striking example for sure. Because
they certainly had a much better handle on that aspect of the game. Like you saw the amount of times the ball came forward and just was immediately sent backwards again by Goldson and Balogun. I thought Balogun in particular, I thought he was very good. He seemed to win. Well, both of them won over 80% of their aerial duels against an Aberdeen front two who are both kind of decent in the air. So that kind of shows you.
Miovski had one of his poorest games, I would think.
There was a suggestion, like especially amongst our pals, that was he entirely fit? He didn't look entirely
fit. He rushed back. You would think in a cup final. I don't know if I'm going to put too much blame on that getting your star striker on the pitch for a game like that.
He would have the odd game like that maybe last season where. And this is back when I think everyone was kind of thinking, okay, this guy's a penalty box striker and not much more.
I definitely thought that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But this season, that's not really happened at all, to be honest. So I would think that he probably wasn't fit, given how little impact he had in the game.
I'm interested to know your feelings on Rubezic coming back in for McDonald.
I mean, he's a bit chaotic. There's no getting away from that. He's a bit chaotic. I understand.
I mean, you get made to look like a fanny by Cyril Dessers. I mean, come on now.
I mean, the guy for best, he had him on his arse and tucked it away. It was like prime Fernando Torres.
Yeah. There's always a few moments, but I totally understand why you have him in the team, because like as a raw central defender who can literally head away asteroids, then he's your guy. And there are going to be moments where you're going to be defending your penalty box when you're Rangers. So
you probably think he'd be protected in that.
Yeah.
So you thought it was more of him, and rather than maybe not just trusting Jack Milne in such a big game.
Maybe he doesn't. He thought that Jack Milne wasn't quite ready for that kind of thing. But the way that he's started Jack Milne in recent weeks makes me think that he does rate him.
Yeah, because he moved Devlin inside in recent weeks.
Yeah, I suppose as well, it's kind of thing like as you said, like you're going to be sitting deeper. You're playing against Rangers, so kind of if it's like so. Because Milne playing on the right also meant it could be Nicky Devlin in the right centre back role, and then you've not got Rubezic playing.
Yeah.
But Devlin's kind of he's one of the centre halves that's good at bringing a ball in. As we've said quite a lot, we want to see these three at the backs with defenders who can bring a ball in.
I think we'll be talking about this on YouTube later.
Yes, but when you're playing against Rangers in a cup final and you know you're going to have to defend your box a lot of time, you probably want somebody Rubezic rather than Devlin, because Devlin's ability to take the ball out will be massively nullified. And Devlin had a decent game.
Yeah, I would have been surprised if Devlin was one of the three. Like Devlin's obviously been a standout performer for Aberdeen this season, so he's on the team sheet. And I don't think you'd put him in for the three, like when you're having to do so much defending as he would have been expecting for this. So yeah, I'm not surprised by that aspect of it. I thought maybe Angus McDonald had played himself into the conversation in the last few weeks as well with his performances in Europe, but the fact that he got 90 minutes during the week made me think
you were thinking instantly that guy's not playing.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably not going to happen, which is a bit of a shame because he's not done a huge amount wrong other than being injured at the start of the season, which obviously isn't his fault. So yeah, I get the argument for Rubezic, but he does also make you feel quite uneasy at times.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we know that. I mean, what about the goal? I mean, I saw a few people online saying that Rubezic was possibly at fault. I thought it was maybe a bit.
Bruce, if you're going to blame anyone, Bruce should be doing a lot better. Bruce had a decent game. Yeah. And when you see the goal from the initial kind of wide angle, it doesn't really look like much his fault at all. It just looks like a good strike, hits it in the ground, it's difficult for the goalie. When you see the angle behind the goals, it's like if he just lifts he just doesn't judge it very well, the bounce. If he lifts his hands, like even like half a foot higher, he's comfortably pushing that away. And he just doesn't quite judge it properly.
Yeah, it's quite an unusual strike for it to. Yeah, and to be fair, that's down at Tavernier. Like,
he misjudges it. Yeah.
I think there was a bit of a collective loss of concentration in that kind of minute or two since, because there was a handball shout for penalty. I think before that, I was obviously like about 400 yards away at the end of the ground. So whether it was a handball, is for the birds.
Can't really, see the other end for the curvature of the earth.
Yeah, exactly. I think there was a bit of a collective sort of loss of concentration for that minute or two, because it was pretty much the only kind of lapse I think that it let,
I'd agree with that. Yeah,
that let Rangers in. There was a couple of other chances or half chances that they had, but yeah, that was pretty much the only moment where I think they were maybe just about half a yard behind it and obviously got punished.
And in the year of our Lord 2023, Borna Barisic is crossing it to James Tavernier.
But this is what you say though. I said this after the game, like Rangers fans are saying like, oh, we need to move on for these guys. It's not their fault, they're still some of your best players.
Move on to who? You've not signed anyone to take their place. Dijon Stellings came in, they've turned him into a centre midfielder straight away as well. and he's doing very well in there in these last couple of games. But yeah, Tavernier, man, what a career he's had at Rangers. I mean, further, me and you have always been very pro Tavernier, and I know there's
even when it wasn't cool,
definitely when it wasn't cool. But when he's playing in the first division,
we had these first albums.
But and I get it sometimes, and I get that you want to move on, and I know he has lapses in concentration, man. But people talk about mentality, and it's all quite wishy-washy when people use these phrases. But use certain words about certain players. But Tavernier's definitely got that. He's never ever looked bothered about when it goes shit for him, and the whole fucking club's fans have completely turned on him over periods of time, and he keeps on coming back, and he always does it, not just the most important, but some of the highest level they play at, like in the Europa League when he was like top goal scorer, and it wasn't all just penalties, he was turning up in the penalty boxes scoring goals like that one, and it's just when it comes and they can't rely on anyone else, and they've spent shitloads of money on all these strikers who haven't really done it at all, it's still Tavernier coming out of the box and doing, like you're saying, an unusual shot, because the way he shoots is always different. There's no way of even the way he does penalties, it's never a guarantee what you're going to get for Tavernier. He doesn't have like a staple way of doing things, like with the way he shoots and his style. And he's just like, he's done incredible for them in their toughest period ever as a club. And to come through, and he's still doing it, and he's still scoring goals in cup finals. They've not won a lot of trophies, and he's still, so it's massive what he's done. And it doesn't get said enough. It really is mental how Tavernier's thought of. I know he's not perfect.
It's other Rangers fans who are like, oh, he's not a Rangers captain because we've barely won any trophies under him. Again, it goes back to what I was saying. It's not his fault he's one of your better players.
Exactly.
If he had better players around him, he would be a captain who'd be winning a lot more trophies.
Absolutely. And he wouldn't be the first one you'd be kicking out the door.
Previous captains like John Gregg didn't win loads of trophies because he had to put the entire team on his back half the time.
Talking, I don't like doing this bit, but McCausland didn't turn up whatsoever.
No.
Because he's a young player, I don't get feel unfair, but I think there was a lot more expected of him in the game.
Yeah, just because he's been playing really well.
Exactly, yeah.
But it's a big occasion, and it's against a kind of strong defensive unit. Like Aberdeen have got their flaws, but you knew that it was going to be. You would have been. Well, would you be surprised? You'd never really be surprised if Rangers were 3-0 up in a cup final against a team like Celtic before half time. But I think at this one you would have been. You would have thought Aberdeen are going to make this a tight game, and this is going to go down probably to the second half, probably to the last whistle as it did, and that's because. For the flaws, and we'll talk about Barry Robson very soon. They are strong at the back, and it's a tough shift going up against Jensen. And I mean, Johnny Hayes, he's not had the best of seasons. It's safe to say that his best days.
I'm surprised he was playing.
Even the best days of his Indian summer are behind him.
The best days of the year.
But he's the kind of guy who can still put in.
I'd watch that film.
Right, let me just jot down the best days of Johnny Hayes' Indian summer.
You get the domain name sorted, and then we'll put the plot together. That'll be fine.
His last days as he lives in the heart of Aberdeen. He's like, he just lost his third wife.
But he's the kind of guy who could just make things difficult for McCausland as well by just sticking to the role.
Yeah.
But, and talking about players that didn't really turn up, Graham Shinnie, since he's come back to Aberdeen, he looks like Graham Shinnie every 4 games, I think.
Yeah.
And Sunday needed to be one of those games, I think, for Aberdeen to have a really good chance, and he just looked like the new Graham Shinnie, which is...
Old.
Graham Shinnie looks quite old.
Yeah. I mean, you say you were surprised that Hayes started. I think he was always going to put that experience on the pitch, Hayes and Shinnie. Like, there was no doubt about it. And I know that, like, yeah, Shinnie's consistency, I would say, is not what it used to be. That's essentially what you said in so many words there.
Yes. He said it 5, I said it 45.
But his legs were such an important part of his game. So when you start taking that away, I feel like you could use him better. I think Aberdeen could use him better. I mean, it's probably because he's captain and because he'd probably on a lot of money to bring him back. But really, you should use him as a squad player, bringing him off the bench. You'd probably get better you'd get more value out of the smaller if you used them less.
Yeah. I think because he is such an important figure in that team, and a team that's like obviously been completely overhauled in each of the last 3 summers.
Yeah.
To have people like Hayes and Shinnie who are in with the furniture at Pittodrie, I think actually does count for a fair bit.
Get the club.
Get the club, exactly. They know the place. They're good. They're good, honest lads. Aye. So
they get the club. They know the place.
Yeah.
Somebody said it needs to know where the toilet is. Shinnie's just like, just in the hall, mate.
And I helped them get 3 points in the weekend.
Great, you're starting. Yeah. No, not his best game.
Yeah, like by Robson like that.
That guy is good.
Yeah. Do you where toilet was?
Not his best game. But I mean, it's quite a tough shift being a midfielder in this Aberdeen team. I would say full stop. Even if it is a guy like Shinnie, whose game was always based around here and around the park, because of the way that Aberdeen are playing with the ball at the moment. I think if you're a midfielder, and I think
you don't want it,
you're seeing with Leighton Clarkson. Well, they have it for such a short amount of time that it's difficult to get a foothold in the game, and certainly like the game plan isn't to control games in the way that previous managers have tried to do. So it's a bit of a tough gig for him at the moment, and and it's difficult as well because supporters are obviously aware that there's so much competition for the places in the centre of the park just now. I mean, Barron didn't get a single minute yesterday. So
were you surprised at that? Do you think you would go for him at some point? Again, it's about what's his skill set. Do you need that in the last 20 minutes? What do you think?
I see the check in on Barron, and then he's like being the best player in the park, and then like 2 weeks later he's not even get a game. It's like that seems to continually happen. I'm like, what's happening?
Yeah, I can see why he would maybe be frustrated. I mean, he's obviously out of contract in the summer. So
talk of him going to Rangers, actually.
Yeah, I mean, Kelsey, please.
These
stories come back. Exactly. Which is what I meant by that. Not that it's like an inevitability that you will. I mean, I hope not. But
he's an Aberdeen midfielder, so he's probably going to do it.
Yeah, we have seen this movie twice. But it's I wasn't.
Was it as good as Johnny Hayes Indian Summer?
No, that's a movie. Barron. Yeah, I didn't expect him to start. I did expect him to come on and get a few minutes, I think. But especially if and perhaps if it had gone to extra time, that would have been the option. But it's I can see why he'd maybe be frustrated by the state of things at the moment.
I know Duke's not been that good. All right. What's Sockler doing though? What's his gig?
Just to like confuse defenders so that there's two Miovskis.
Yeah. Because it's like I'm wondering because I see it because Duke came on. I thought he made a bit of an impact in terms of I don't think he was good, but he starts running at people. He uses pace. He got to He went down when he shouldn't have when he was going into the box. He won a free kick. Like, just stay up, man. You are going heading into the box free, and he goes down soft, and it is a free kick, but you could definitely stay on your feet. I suppose it's just this is what you do.
He's running into the box, so you might get a penalty.
But you need to wait another second until you get into there. But just you see like some of the things that he can do, and I'm always Sockler. He scored a good goal during the week. Don't get me wrong, and I just. Like there's not enough difference between the two strikers. I don't know, like in terms of a partnership, it just feels like Sockler just is a bit meh.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely something about Sockler. It's unclear exactly what that is yet. And this is the first time the last month or so when he's had a decent run in the team.
Yeah.
And to be fair, in one of those games against Rangers at Pittodrie, he did the flick on for
he did.
So
he also missed a sitter.
True. But
he showed what he could bring, could bring in the value he could bring in that.
So I can see why, and also like I mean, you talk about Duke coming on and offering a bit of a threat. I mean, running at players from coming on as a sub
late is probably a better way.
I can see the logic, and I don't think there'd have been too many people arguing for the reverse of that for Duke to be starting and then for Sockler to be coming off the bench.
And I suppose, I mean, you look at the subs specifically, Morris, Duke, McGarry, Polvara is very much stay in the game, then introduce all the legs all at once. Because I mean, McGarry's got that, and obviously they come on 60, like they're bringing on 66, 66 in 70 minutes. So the idea has probably been in your head exactly how we're going to play this. So he probably thinks maybe Sockler's better ways back to goal, and he'd probably do when it opens up a bit. Then Duke's probably a better bet at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's either that I think, or you could have started with Duke, or you could have maybe popped another body in the midfield, pop Polvara in essentially, and make sure that one of the midfielders, probably McGrath, is getting really close to Miovski all the time. But I mean, again, like I can see the logic in going with Sockler as he has tended to do over the last few weeks. And well, I mean, he got a good chance, so that's something. But yeah, I can see the logic, and I think there were a lot of people who would have been who wouldn't have had too many complaints about
it. It was a shit game, though.
And before we move on to a shiter of a Scottish Premiership weekend, apart from 2 results, we shall just want to focus on Barry Robson. So, strange interview after the game. Where he talked like that. I think you'd put in the group chat where he talked like a lot of journalists down south do about pundits do about Man United. This is Manchester United we're talking about here. But he's like kept doing that. This is Rangers Football Club. We can't come down here. We can't. It was almost like he was preempting the criticism on afcchat.co.uk, like that he was just going to get too much stick for being too negative. But because this is the knock on him entirely. Is that he's too negative. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing in this game.
Because in general it is.
Yeah, but in general it is. And after, I mean, the Hearts game was a big result. Because you kind of thought before then, okay, he's probably just going to get the cup final and then they'll say goodbye. But now that he won that game, narrow defeat in the cup final, how short or long a leash does he have?
I think, I don't think there's any question that he needs to start getting results in the league. Because if we get to a situation in the springtime whereby Aberdeen are clinging on to the coattails of the top 6, let's say, then he's going to start looking like he's on a shiggly peg. But at the same time, like as I kind of hinted at earlier, you can't be in a situation where you're having to overhaul the team every year. Yeah. It's just not sustainable. So I think there's an appetite seemingly at the club to try and make this work. But if the league results don't improve, then it will be unsustainable. I think you can all see what he's trying to do, and in some games it is working. But ultimately, if the results continue to sort of potter along as they have been, where you win one and you lose one, or whatever, and you end up in sort of this kind of 8th, 9th situation, or even like, I mean, let's be honest. There's not a significant difference between the bottom of the league and the rest of the league at the moment. So. I mean, if you're anywhere near that kind of spiral, then I think there will be a wee bit of panic. I could see that happening. There's
some very winnable fixtures coming up.
Yeah, but the winnable fixtures are the problem.
Yeah, that is true.
The winnable fixtures are the problem.
We had this discussion last season. I mean, because obviously, Aberdeen rarely hump anyone. It's always 1-0 that they win. I think a lot of people called the fact that they would have good performances against Rangers, for example. The performances in Europe have been brilliant. Like, I know they didn't really get what they deserved, arguably, in a lot of the games. They're I think on another day they could have got through.
Compare their performances this season. They finished with the same points, but compare their performances this season to Hearts last season, and it's night and day. Hearts are just getting scalped by Fiorentina and the Istanbul team who's Sonny McCann.
Don't worry about it.
But Aberdeen were competitive in all those matches against the teams. And I mean, Pau aren't as good as Fiorentina or Istanbul.
But Pau's still absolutely humped Hearts.
But
that again, you can see that coming because of the way Robson plays. So it wasn't like that wasn't like I was surprised at that. It is like you're saying, the winnable fixtures with the other team, where it's like the Simpsons, where nobody kicks the ball and it's in the middle of the park. It's Aberdeen the one, other team, well, you're not going to do it. We're not going to do it either.
Gives it to Jensen.
Yeah. So again, that's what happened.
Holds it.
But he's shown that against Hibs and against Hearts, that when they get the intensity levels up, they can batter teams. They have the ability, they have the strength, they've got the makeup of the team. Makes sense in the Scottish Premiership. It makes you would think that can do stuff.
I'm not even sure the squad would need overhauled if another manager came in. I think it's
a good squad.
I think it could easily be argued that it's the third strongest squad in the division. And really, Europe's a massive hindrance to clubs. We saw it with Hearts last year, and you saw it even in the summer with Hibs. I mean, if Hibs weren't in Europe this year with Lee Johnson, or maybe stuck around another couple of months, probably
he'd be relegated.
There's that. No, I think what needs to happen now that obviously we're out of Europe, we've not got a League Cup final to think about. What needs to happen now is he needs to find a way of getting these players into a system that you can play against teams that are of a comparable level or slightly below, and be able to beat them, because that's what he struggled to do. I was actually reasonably, I wouldn't say confident, but I was reasonably comfortable that we would play well yesterday.
Yeah, I knew Aberdeen would be in the game. I knew they would never be getting it stretched.
Whereas if it's Livingston at home on Wednesday, I mean,
it stinks.
I'm probably less confident. Bizarrely, because he's not found a formula to make decent players work together to break down teams, or to when it's not just a situation of catching teams on the break. I think he needs to find a way of doing that. And I think there are ingredients there to do that. It's just a case of finding that formula. So I hope we see a wee bit of kind of evolution in his team over the next few weeks. I think that's what supporters will be looking for sure.
And just, I mean, you're talking about how he was a bit awkward and uncomfortable in his interview. Have you ever seen anyone more uncomfortable in a suit in your entire life? Just not a man who wanted to be wearing one. He had the corsage he had on was the size of his head. It was absolutely massive.
The corsage was a weird choice for the club. I think, all in corsages,
What's wrong with like a wee thistle, man? It looked like a bit of class. It looks nice. Yeah. The corsage is like, what, prom day? Yeah. But the League Cup final in the pissing rain in December? You all look like idiots. You can't win dressed like that.
Standing there with a wilted bunch of flowers.
Yeah. Like Ross and Friends. Brian Robson when he comes into the press conference after the game. Don't be nasty to me. It's Rangers.
Turn the camera off.
Yeah. Oh, Jack.